What's going on, people, and welcome back to Man Knows Football. You're here with myself, Guni, and a very familiar face to most Chelsea fans that are on this YouTube thing. I have Niinii. He is back on Man Knows Football. This is, I believe, the second time we have had you on the channel. So, first and foremost, thank you very much for coming back on the channel. You already know I'm a huge fan of your content. I've been watching you for years. You're an opinion that I like to listen to very much. You're very well nuanced. You explain yourself very well, and it's like we were saying before this, before we even started this. With my ranting and my anger over the past few weeks, I'm trying to come away from that. But this is a man that seems to, he's got a level head most of the times, explains himself very well. But enough blowing smoke up Niinii's ass. I'm pretty sure he appreciates all the
No, I'm
accolades and all
enjoying it,
that
though.
kind
I'm
of stuff.
enjoying it, bro. Go on,
But
go on.
how you doing, Niinii, bruv? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. But I want to clarify one thing. Obviously, I present myself as level-headed in my videos, but don't be thinking outside my videos. I'm not punching up walls and punching up my pillow and not getting pissed off of the situation. Please, please. I'm not very happy either, and I don't want to start getting conditioned to this type of L's that I've been seeing for we're getting to like 18 months. It's absolutely mad.
It's becoming serial losses, bro. It's not. This is something that we're not used to, bro. We're not used to this, and I'm glad I'm not the only one. Yeah, people. As you can see, we're both grown men here. We still have our emotions played about with our football club, so it's no different, man. We're very much similar to you guys. There's no difference to us. We love our club. We feel pain when things ain't really going well, but man, this has been a massive, massive topic. And quite rightly, like you said, in fact, the past 18 months has really been focused about when are we going to get our Chelsea back? What's going on with Chelsea? We've come into this season. We've got Mauricio Pochettino as the manager now. A lot of us were happy with his appointment. We could see why he was appointed. His previous work with, what he done at Spurs. I know he didn't win anything there, but for me, he's still, in some ways, he overachieved over there. He got his trophy at PSG. Now he's here at Chelsea, very much known for, developing young players and taking them to the next step in their careers. But so early on, 6 games in, we've only got 5 points in 6 games, 5 out of a possible 18 points. Our fan base seems to be in panic. We seem to be in divide. I'm not going to exclude myself. Like I said, I went mad in the previous preview to a post-match to a point where I had to even take it down. So I'm also caught up in this emotional circle of Poch in, Poch out, management in, owners in, owners out, protest this, protest that. There's so much going on, Niinii. Now, could you please, with your calm demeanor, calm myself down and the rest of our subscribers that are watching, man? Where do we even begin with this? I'll let you just go. Where do we begin?
That's a good question in itself. Where do we actually begin with this span? Because it's starting to feel like failure is a very strong and it's a very conclusive words. I don't want to start getting too mad. I can understand a bit of patience is needed for certain parts and aspects, but I feel like we're getting closer and closer to using that word failure at this time. And I'm starting to feel like it's bigger than Pochettino. And I feel like it's an organizational thing at this point in time. I mean, I've been saying this recently, and again, I hold my hands up. I've been literally being so open about admitting the fact that, of course, obviously I drank the Kool-Aid during all these windows. We're signing mad players, breaking the British record, transfer twice in the space of how many months. We're actually signing a lot of players most times where these are players that we wanted to see come here. And how many fan bases can say that their owners are really coughing up the money to secure these top targets, right? But now you're seeing the reality of the situation, and again, I'm learning lessons. I'm getting humbled. You can't just buy your success and expect instant results. Is what it's starting to feel like. And the only thing I'm thinking about right now that I'm re-examining everything in hindsight, yeah, is the fact that, have we done too much all at once? Have we tried to rebuild the club, all the staff, the medical team, multi-club networks, a new stadium, sponsors? I mean, look, I'm wearing the new shirt. Very beautiful shirt, not going to lie. The only good thing about our season, but bros, 6 games into the season, or 7 if you include the Carabao Cup game, no sponsor secured yet. That is a big sign of but we're chewing too much and we can actually swallow right now, is what it kind of feels like. And I'm not too sure. I just feel like in hindsight now, have we tried to force too much all at once and not just naturally try to, like, get change over the seasons? Because let's keep things real. The last time we went on a winning streak was like all the way like this time last season. We had guys like Aubameyang leading the line, Quaver and Georgia in the team, etc., etc. And so far over 12 months, that's been the most successful period of results that we haven't seen again ever since. And we were getting those results, beating similar teams that we can't beat right now, with the type of players that all of us kind of criticize or felt weren't good enough. So it just goes to show that getting those points, there's a lot more details and aspects behind, other than just spending big, signing big names, big name players, and just expecting and assuming that would translate to success immediately on the field.
No, I mean, you've kind of unpacked a lot there. There was, and a lot of what you've said is true. I can't lie. A lot of what you said is massively true. I mean, I kind of want to go back in time a little bit, and I want to go to the period where Roman Abramovich first took over Chelsea. And just look at how he structured things when he came to the club. Now, I will say this, the era is completely different to what it was back then. The playing field was completely different to what it was back then. Because when Roman did come into Chelsea, we were one of very few clubs that could spend the way that we could spend. When you fast forward to today, the majority of clubs can afford some of the top players. A lot of it is just down to the case of the reputation of the club, or whether they've got certain levels of football that they're going to be playing every single season. But for the most part, the majority of Premier League teams have money to work with in comparison to back then. But that's not really the point that I'm trying to rest on. It's more so the recruitment of what Roman did. When he came to the club, one of the first signings he made behind the scenes was he drove up the M60 or the M1, I forget. I've been out of London for over 10 years plus, up to Manchester. And he said, Peter Kenyon, I don't know how to run a football club, but what I do have is a lot of bloody money that I'm willing to spend. But I need you to show me how to spend this money so we can have a little successful model, or we can have foundations to build a successful model. Todd Boehly, as you know, didn't come in and do this. In fact, he came in and he started making decisions himself. So it appears to be. He might have been advised by somebody behind the scenes that we know nothing about, but the proof really was in the pudding after the first kind of transfer window that he had. And why I say that is because if you look at the majority of players that we signed in that window, specifically that one, they're no longer at the club. But do you think that's a place where Todd kind of went wrong? He should have gone for a model where, after he bought the club, get somebody in who understands how to run a football club.
But that's the thing, right? And obviously, this is where I sympathize, because, sometimes if you have a grand vision, like being able to actually implement that is a lot harder, because you can't really, you can't prepare for what life's going to throw at you. Let's say the guy that you want to sign and hire, like Michael Edwards, to come and run things. You're negotiating, you're talking to him for time to try and persuade him to come. And if he says no, well, that throws all your plans out the window. And then you have to start coming up with new ideas on the spot then. And I'm going to sympathize. I mean, we can't forget that the sanction periods, that was a very unfortunate period where you can't really prepare or plan for anything for like 3-4 months. We didn't know what was happening. We didn't have any answers. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring in that sense. And I feel like once we came out of that period, it kind of made things a bit slow for us, because it wasn't an ideal way to start the new owner's reign at this football club. So if you can't get Michael Edwards, you can't just easily snap up a new sporting director on the spot and think that someone will come in next week and start making sense of things. I can understand why people had to rally together to start preparing, to start bringing in a structure and hierarchy. Tuchel, he was given license to have the players he wanted signed. Tuchel was using third-party agencies as well, in terms of using data analytics to get the players that he wanted to bring in. Hence why we saw Koulibaly's and Sterling's and co. And obviously, Todd Boehly isn't as experienced. He's gonna obviously back Thomas Tuchel, right? Who's one of the best managers in Europe. And I think most people in that same position would end up doing the same thing. And as time went on, it was quite clear that maybe the working relationship between both of them, again, another unforeseen, unexpected thing that took place, was
Yep.
quite clear that they weren't really aligned together in that sense. Long story, we know Tuchel went. And then I guess maybe a mistake, or the first mistake was maybe Graham Potter. But even saying Potter being a mistake feels a little bit like harsh, because I feel like we definitely made this guy's life a lot harder by bringing in so many players during that season.
Yep.
And I feel like, again, this is why I just have this like overwhelming like thought, and I don't have all the answers, but just in my opinion so far is I think we forced way too much, way too soon. And then it was kind of just having an effect on the players, the quality of the team. Like there was no proper structure in training where people are working on ideas week in, week out to get ready for the next game, for next week, for next month. And when you're adding in even more players, at the point where we read the reports, you know, there's not even enough space in the locker room or in like, the analytics sessions, like, you know, rewatching the games again, guys got to sit on the floor and stuff. You got an abundance of players who play in the same positions, just here and there. Like you're undermining not only the quality of the coaching, but the players themselves as well too.
Yeah.
And it gets you thinking, in hindsight now, do we have to sign most of those players to come in January? And could we not have waited? Would that not have been the most beneficial thing? Because the gamble was, if we spend big, can we still get Champions League football and climb up the table? And I think that's what I mean. I feel like everything is placed on a gamble at the moment. And I just feel like the gamble doesn't have to be forced. So there's a bit more patience behind how we're rebuilding, you know? Like I look at Man City, I see how Man City, they focus on their first team first, because every other idea doesn't really matter if the first team on the field week in, week out is not quality and isn't winning. And I just still feel like, you know, the club network model, we're even seeing little signs of like it not being fully patterned. Like, for example, why are guys like Andre Santos, why is he not at Strasbourg even? Why has he gone to Nottingham Forest? Like, surely if the whole plan is to be signing all these young kids for big money, it's so they can be in our networks. And already, like you're paying the consequences of not being able to get that all fully implemented. You know, I'm looking at the sponsor being the prime example. Why don't we have a sponsor? Because the original guy we hired last year to be the director of business, he had a scandal behind the scenes, which put a lot of things in the dust. Someone else had to come in. And then when we thought we had it like close with like Paramount Plus and other deals, the FA's turned it down. And it's just like, these are the things you can't fully prepare for. But when you're just doing everything all at once, you know, forcing so much all together, like, I'm sorry, you can do everything perfectly and you still can't prepare for what life's going to throw at you. I just
100%.
kind of feel like this is where we pay the price. Because I know I'm kind of going on a bit, bro. But
That's all right.
to even end my point, Pochettino can be doing things a bit better. But at the same time, did he get the ideal circumstances he wanted? Because again, I've been following this club, like you guys, you know, I'm meticulous with it throughout the summer. I remember reading the reports of Poch saying I only want 3-4 players. I was looking at guys like flipping Martinez and Sadio Mane, guys who have experience, Prem experience. He was like, I want to have a small squad of at least 23 outfield players. I want all these signings to come in before pre-season even starts, so they have more time to work with me together. And what did we do? We didn't start bringing in players until August when the season was about to start. The prep's a bit messed up. I think Caicedo is still going to be like a month away until he's even showing what he can really do for us right now. There's all these little facets and details. The injuries piling on top too. It creates an environment where it's very hard for you to focus solely on, you know, on excellency at the moment. And, you know, a lot of it does come down to the fact that, you know, you're kind of just having to quickly revamp the plans based on what's being thrown at you. Like some of the business we did, listen, I'm not going to say we signed some bad players. Was some of the signings a bit unnecessary? But some of this could be of this weighted. You know, I'm looking at the midfield now. Lavia's not even here yet. But then already I'm thinking to myself, okay, it'd be exciting to see him. But what upside am I going to expect in the fields? We already stacked midfield as it is right now. And we're not even using our best guy in midfield in Enzo at the moment. It's like all these little like details that aren't on point right now. And I just feel like if things were slowed down, if it was like, okay, we're focusing solely on the first team, we're going to listen to you, Poch, instead of having like these careerist directors who just want to like, you know, they want to safeguard the position in the club. They want to like, you know, they want to show their value and worth. They've been given the keys, guys that have no connection to us at all, and they've had full control to do whatever they want. So I think, you know, you can maybe start to look at things a little bit critically if we continue to not get wins anymore now, you know. So I don't know, man. I know it's a very long-winded answer. I kind of went on a little bit, but I think
No,
that's the
you're
situation
good,
I'm feeling
honestly.
right now.
You never listen, man. Your opinion is very much respected here, man. And I like to let people speak. I don't like to cut people off. Do you know what I mean? I like to let people get to the end of their point. So I'll never interrupt. But understand your opinion here is very much respected. So don't ever apologize for it. But
Yeah, thanks, man.
one thing that you did mention was obviously the whole situation with the signings that we made. And once again, I still want to stick to the owners. We're going to speak about Pochettino as well. I just want to kind of cover each base on its own. So I'm still sticking with the owners here. When we look at the squad, it's nowadays in football, it's the recruitment team, it's the ownership that come up with a philosophy that they want to carry through their club. And at the minute, as we know, we're being given this project, so it appears to be, which is a youth project. We're signing players that are under 25 years old. Now, my thing is this, is age for me is very relative, because people say experience and they conflate age and appearances and the amount of football that you've played, right? They're not the same thing. And I'll give you a case in point. For example, Kylian Mbappe is 23 years old. He's got ample experience at every level you can think of. World Cup finals, Champions Leagues, constant title wins, things of this nature. So it's not all bad to be going for youth players, but you just have to choose wisely. That's my thing. Now, I'm going to mirror what you said. A lot of these signings that we made, I don't necessarily think that they're bad signings, especially more so when you look 2, 3, 4 years down the line, what they could possibly develop into. Do you know what I mean? But there has to be something in place before that happens for us to have some kind of, you know, continuity of success. Now, like you're saying, to replace as many players as we did and to bring in as much players as we did, it's unrealistic for most clubs to expect to be competing straight away. That much I understand. But on the flip side, should we be expecting what we're seeing now? Because at the moment, with this squad and with the quote unquote lack of playing experience of a lot of these players that we've signed at the highest level, should we be seeing us hovering at the bottom half of the table and fighting to keep ourselves in the top half of the table? Is this something that we should be accustomed to seeing as Chelsea fans? Although there is a rebuild, there is a new structure that has come in. Should we be seeing this? This is my question. And with the money that you spent, right, I'll give it another example that I'll give. Looks like a good player, looks like a talent. Leslie Gochukwu has had 2 good games, in my opinion. Minimal experience in terms of playing at the top level. Nicholas Jackson, another one. I know a lot of my subscribers are going to say, oh, Guni, bro, you get onto this guy a lot. It's true, but I want to state another fact. Last season was his first breakthrough season at Villarreal, and now he's here at Chelsea. These are the profiles that concern me as in terms of the short term, because we have to worry about the short term, Niinii, because this run of games that we have got coming up, November, December, it looks brutal. We could find ourselves in a very precarious position come Christmas. So, but just going back to the point, do you think that the ownership have made a mistake in terms of signing off on some of these young players that have got minimal experience and now trying to integrate them into the team as much as they are? Or do you think that's being blown out of proportion a little bit?
I think it's a little bit of both. I do feel like maybe some of the reasons why we decided to invest so big in youth, I think there's a lot of business strategy reasons behind it, right? You know, long contracts, they can earn less money. There's more upside for these guys to fulfill their potential and grow. And you know what I mean? It's like a more affordable way to rebuild a club into the philosophy and direction that you want, which I get. But I think one thing I always stress is the difference between like business principles and sporting principles. I think sport will always be different because of competition and human aspects and elements, which have a lot greater influence compared to things that maybe control a lot more of in business. And you know, to be maybe sign certain young guys, but be more encouraged to sign them because it's like, listen, if you don't get them now, when are we going to get them again in the next
Good
2 to
point.
4 years? You know, is
Good
this
point.
why they're thinking, okay, maybe we should aggressively phase out everyone, even if it kind of seems a little bit mad? Like, I think the N'Golo Kante one, I think I've always mentioned I was a little bit surprised by that. I think that that's the type of experience that you want to have in your team,
Yep.
because no matter how young you are or how much quality you have at your age, you're still learning. You're not fully developed. You don't have all that experience yet in terms of how you're going to control yourself, like emotionally on the field, in terms of your decision making and aspects that you see from these guys too. And when you have experienced seniors around you, just to help with that balance, they're who the young guys turn to. And I think the prime example I'd probably say is Brighton. Yeah, they signed some great young guys like Joao Pedro, Belieber. They're introducing guys like, you know, Ferguson's and
Yep.
Cisco's and everyone. But they also sign guys like James Milner to have. They also have Danny Welbeck. They also have
Glad you said
Lallana.
that.
They also have some experience scattered between them to have that balance of both. Because maybe sometimes the seniors have that experience in terms of how to manage themselves in game states that youngsters don't have. Youngsters might just have the energy and exuberance and you know, more confidence to take things on more. And this is where you can get the best of both worlds. But I think to just solely like ignore all of that and discard that and kind of minimize that, it isn't helpful. It isn't helpful. And I guess they didn't feel like maybe signing experience in the summer was going to be key. I mean, listen, we do have some. I mean, Nkunku, I guess, Ben, Thiago Silva being the bait one, but it's not as much. And we can definitely, I don't know. I think my thing is that with youngsters, if you're losing and the confidence goes down, this is where the seniors can help in moments like this. But maybe I'm just talking just nonsense. I mean, come on, we had experience before, right? And we also got ourselves in these moments before. It's not like it's completely new for us.
No, I mean, there's truth to every, because like it's like we were saying, there's so much to unpack. Do you know what I mean? So many things can be true at the same time. So, you know, what you're saying is not necessarily wrong. But another thing that I wanted to mention was Tony Bloom actually came out the other day, and I saw some quotes from him, and he said some absolutely just basic striking things that we should all know. Do you know what I mean? And I think you've seen it, and this is something that I've heard you definitely say before. I've said many times on my channel before. And he says Brighton are now at a point where they have players that they are ready to bring into the first team if one leaves. So, for example, Caicedo gone, Gilmore in, so on and so forth. Now, I'm going to parallel that to a team like Manchester City. Now, obviously, to get to that state, you have to build stability anyway, off the pitch and on the pitch. You have to have your core players where you can say, these are the players that are going to feature for me predominantly, and some of these players I'm going to build around. If other players around this spine leave, it's not a problem. We can replace them with the correct profiles. Those things take time. You don't get those things overnight. And Brighton, as you've seen, that's not an overnight project. Graham Potter wasn't immediately successful when he came to Brighton. This wasn't a team that was competing for Europe when they got into the Premier League for the first, 2-3 seasons. 4 seasons. We was like, who are they? They were in many of our eyes, they were whipping boys. But obviously, different circumstances, the size of club, the requirement for success, very different with Chelsea and Brighton. So I believe that the fact that that club had so much less pressure than a Chelsea or whatever, they were allowed to go on about this process quietly. Do you know what I mean? And when there's not much pressure on you, mistakes are not as magnified as much. There is space for patience. But now you're coming into these elite clubs like Chelsea, Manchester United, and so on and so forth, where you're not really afforded that much time. I asked this question: is that a culture that doesn't only need to change within our fan base, but it's got to change within other fan bases as well? Because your Manchester United, for example, this is a team that are years away from competing for anything similar to what we are. So is this something that the fans have now got to adapt to in this new modern age of football, because so many other teams around them are structured, do have a bit more finances and so on and so forth?
I mean, I think that's kind of the reality right now. I do think maybe sometimes on social media issues can be exasperated a bit more, but I think personally sometimes I do kind of ignore it a bit more now because it feels like the reasonings that people turn to feel a lot weaker now when it's been the same reasonings used for everything. And like when you get to a point like this where it feels like, what else can you really say? It starts to feel a bit hollow. So if people
Yeah.
are saying Pochettino out or Todd Bowley out, which I've been seeing, I think that comes across, in my opinion, it's a little bit immature. I
It
feel like
is.
it
It
comes
is.
across as just a little bit like, I get it, you're upset, you want to just like let your feelings out. But this ain't really productive, and you're not really helping the situation. In an ideal world, it would be nice if you saw like communities online trying to be like, oh, I know you missed, but Jackson, I know next week you got this, for example, and that type of stuff. But the real world is not like that. I understand. But I don't know. I don't know. Going back to your point about Brighton too, I think Brighton, listen, they had their periods where they weren't finishing their meal, right? I mean, under Graham Potter, they had
Yep.
Mope up front and all these guys. They did all the nice stuff that we're seeing, in terms of build up, possession, taking the game on against big teams, but they couldn't finish. And, I think Brighton, the thing that really helped them is that they didn't panic. They didn't re-strategize. They persisted with what they did because they knew that eventually, with the data and the numbers, things were bound to get better. And at the same time, and they had those little indifferent spells, they were also rebuilding the structure of their clubs, signing up, creating their own multi-club network models, having like that Belgium team, St. Truiden, I think. And what kind of like genius stuff comes from that? They're signing Matoma from Japan, loaning him there to get his work permit. The same thing for Moises Caicedo. So they were still
See, so
slowly,
yeah.
exactly. So they were still, and even the new guy, Adingra, as well, too, that's looking really good playing for them. So they knew they had confidence in their strategy and their model, and they played the long game. And now they're paying like the full rewards and benefits for that. Like one of the most exciting teams in Europe. I think they're going to probably thrash Ajax next week, and they're at a point now where if a big player does leave, they have that conveyor belt ready now, where not only are the scouts finding their next big options, not only are they able now to entice them because they can offer good football. You're living in a very nice city too in Brighton, a bit of coastal, coast around you as well too. But you also have the like success behind you to really show, listen, this is why you need to come and sign for us. So
Yeah.
I've always kind of felt like we're trying to do like a Brighton, but on like £1 billion type of budget and scale, right? And maybe we kind of put our pressure on ourselves by forcing too much too soon and not gradually implementing things. Because, I'm always going to say this, a lot of players that you've criticized, I've criticized, many of us have, we won more games with them. And we're at a point now where it's getting near 2 years, but we haven't really seen much success on the field right now, no matter how many good things we're showing and this thing, that thing, that thing. So I don't know. I just feel like this is a consequence of moving like this. And all we can really hope for now is patience. And the most important thing is, bro, I just want to see a bit more aggression. The
Yeah.
details need to be more aggressive. Like, are Brighton, did they like start changing how they're playing? Did they become more conservative and stuff? No, they kept playing their football, knowing that we're going to pay the rewards for this. And, it's not all Pochettino's fault, but he still has controllables that he can control on the fields. I feel like the game management, Aston Villa, I felt it was kind of weak subbing off everyone like that and letting them come on to us. I feel like throughout this season, I get this little back three, back four thing he's doing, but it doesn't make as much sense when you're playing this way against the weaker teams you're hoping you're picking up your points against before you have this mad run that's coming where we have flipping Arsenal and then Tottenham and then Man City and then Newcastle and then Brighton and then Man United. And we're already like 9 points off a top 5 spot. If we lose like, bro, if we lose like 8 games, 9 games a season, we're probably not going to get any European football again.
None.
And we've already like lost how many games to begin with? 3 games already on the bounce, and it's just started. So I don't know. I feel like I get the difficulties. My thing is, let's play to go for it and let's play for balls at least. Like I always say this, but I just don't think we're a team that can win 2-0, 1-0. I think we're a team that should be trying to win 3-2, 4-3,
Yeah,
2-1
outscoring
and
opponents right now.
outscore, and then the manager sets us up to play on the counter attack to play afterwards. I think that's how we have to do things.
Yep, like well, very similar to like the pathway that Liverpool took, isn't it? They was just known for outscoring teams, and then eventually they shored up their defense and they had that balance. And
Yeah.
look how that worked out for them. But good time to move on to the manager. Actually, we'll move away from the ownership. I feel like we've discussed quite a few points there for you lot to think of. But actually, before we do move on to the manager, I have to ask you to do these things. Make
Yeah.
sure you hit that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up as well. Leave your thoughts down there in the comments. And if you're living under a rock and you don't follow Blue Lions TV, make sure you follow. His link is down there in the descriptions. Also, as well, the Twitter is down there as well. You got Instagram as well? I believe you do.
I need to actually reactivate that. Not gonna lie.
There you go. Doesn't really use the Instagram, but the YouTube channel's down there, the Twitter's down there as well. All clickable links I've put in the work for you. Don't be lazy. All right. So we'll move on to the actual football stuff. The manager, the gaffer, Mr. Mauricio Pochettino, our fourth manager in the space of 365 days, Niinii. Mental. And it hasn't started very well in the Premier League for us, our bread and butter. But actually, I think it makes more sense to go back to preseason, because we keep seeing a lot of these comparisons from preseason to now, and there is context to this. But preseason, we seem to be playing some exciting football. There were certain players that were available. That's key. Do you know what I mean? There's certain players that have now left the club and have gone on loan, i.e., Angelo, who featured heavily in the preseason. But we were playing a football that was starting to look exciting. Patterns of play. We're playing with the back four. Not that we aren't now, but we're playing with the back four. We're playing with players in their positions outside of Maatsen, who was playing in that midfield. But for the majority of it, most of our players were playing where they wanted to be played. We were getting results. Then all of a sudden, we come into the Premier League and everything's just changed. Now, I've always maintained this and I've always said this. I will defend Pochettino for playing that formation against Liverpool, because once again, you're respecting your opponents here and considering the threat that they've got on the pitch and what we didn't have available. I could completely understand it. But then to go with a similar system to Luton, to West Ham, and for me, that's where it became like, well, hold on a minute here. I know we got the 3-0 against Luton, but even still, the manner of which we won, not that in this precise moment in time it should matter, but even still, I felt like it was still a little bit negative for me. Do you know what I mean? I think we could have still been a bit less pragmatic, especially being at home against the Luton. But the results now, it's like I said before, 5 points in 6 games. To those that are new to this football team, that's 5 points out of 18. And if we're having honest conversations here, that kind of record at a lot of other top clubs would get you sacked. But we are not in a position where we can just keep doing this recycling, revolving door things with managers. Otherwise, we're going to keep hitting the reset button, reset, and we're not going to see no trophies. But in terms of Pochettino, Niinii, I've had so many different Chelsea fans come on here and express their frustrations about Pochettino. So let me just get, your thoughts about Pochettino, both short term and in the long term, actually.
I think, you know what? I feel like Poch in the long term, he can turn things around. I don't think he's been immune to having slow starts at clubs that he takes over with. I think Tottenham was like the prime one, where I think he was close to even getting the sack until that they got the last minute winner against I think Southampton, if I'm remembering things right. And unironically, like, all of Pochettino's training methods actually help Tottenham in the future. Why? Because all this like work they're putting in the training ground, intensity, running, cardio, physio, and all that stuff, meant that when it came into the crunch time of the season, Spurs were one of the fittest teams that could play and last longer than most oppositions. And they were winning most of their games in the second half. So I do think there's like a method to the madness from Poch. But I guess my only thing, bro, and this is what has frustrated me, I'm looking at, as we've been talking, I looked at our lineups against Brighton and during pre-season, and obviously other games like Newcastle and Fulham, for example, too. And I think it's funny that we're going to play Fulham and Brighton like as our next 2 games. And I was thinking I could have sworn I was seeing a right back and left back together on the field. And I was right. Obviously, Ben Joe was playing left back, Gusto on the right hand side. That was against Fulham. We beat them 2-0. Good game. I thought he looked very good in pre-season. Dominated with like nearly 60% chances as well. And then obviously against Newcastle was 1-1, but it was like a decent game against them. And then obviously the one against Brighton too, another game where we were using a left back and a right back together. And I kind of feel like this is where my frustration comes from. I think the principle of play is good. One thing I really liked is the fact that we're a team that doesn't have one set formation on the field, right? There's one formation for build-up. There's one formation for like being on the ball. There's one formation for attacking. There's one formation for defending. And I feel like when I see the players on the field, they kind of understand where they have to be in terms of all these different phases. And I think this is the type of software in the long run. This is where you're going to get some benefits because we do have the players to play this way. But I feel like the thing that undermines a lot of the good things that we especially saw in pre-season is these attacking tactical tweaks. And it's really frustrating me, bro, because, again, as we all said, against Liverpool, it makes sense. And to be honest, we should have beaten them. We made the chances. I thought it was a good account to start the season. But then after that, we're playing against opposition teams where, come on, we are the better team. We're the stronger team, and we should have a lot more points than what we have right now. And I kind of feel like what's pissed me off is how Pochettino has played in the hands of teams that are just going to sit back and defend. And they all do the same thing. And what, even annoys me the most, bro. These teams aren't even playing their best game of the season to get these results and these points against us. We're playing in the hands of them. And I think one of the key things is how we're missing another man in attack here. And I just think that this silly tweak, and I'm a flipping YouTuber. Listen, I know my levels, calling the manager silly. I know it's a bit rude, but I'm getting to a point now, bro, where I'm just thinking it is looking a bit silly, but I'm seeing these unnecessary tweaks with no utility, no upsides. Listen, Ben, I even understand this, brother. Playing there at a time against Liverpool when them runs in behind. But let's not act like he can't do that from left back. Why are we acting like Ben is a liability 1v1? Like, can people name me 5 times 5 different players have absolutely roasted him in a game since he signed for us? No one can do that, yeah? And we were benefiting from having these fullbacks in pre-season when players are more in their customary positions. Listen, I get Nkunku being out. That sucks. It's annoying. I get Cons. Credit to Cons that Pochettino rates him that much that we can even say that him being missing in the team is like a big thing, right?
It's a big loss.
I'm hoping I see big things from Cons because he looked promising as the season started. But I'm sorry. This is where I'm going to blame the management, bro, because it's the decision making in these moments. Like, you're only now introducing Mudryk, but when he played the brother on the field, he's isolated by himself. And I'm thinking, it just baffles me. When I'm seeing how lopsided our game is, where everyone's on the right-hand side, when I'm seeing Enzo playing a 10, where, bro, he had, I did the video yesterday, 35 passes in the game. No, and then only 27 completed or something like that. Bro, Enzo Fernandez, he's the guy that can get you 100 plus touches. He plays 80 to like 110 passes a game, and you're taking that type of influence out from your midfield. He is undermining the good work that I've seen and we all saw during pre-season, which I feel like that team can still come back. That wasn't a fluke. That wasn't a fluke during pre-season. That was like we were seeing the recipe of success, in my opinion. I feel like the guy is undermining it. And come on, that one of the biggest weaknesses, actually, and he got criticism for this before he left Paris Saint-Germain too, is that he really struggled to find solutions against low blocks. Now, I feel like we do have some. Listen, the solutions I'm even suggesting aren't necessarily guaranteeing us the ability to win everything. Of course not. But I just feel like when you're going to actively undermine your attack a bit, I just don't see how that really helps us. And my thing is, bro, the players, they definitely take some responsibility. I thought the game plan against Villa made sense, exploit their line. And a lot of time, these guys were messing up. But I also feel like this is where it's the management thing. I think it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy that you actually do onto yourself when the team is just carrying a lack of confidence in front of goal due to not really having the ability to create connections or have the opportunity to miss one or two chances, knowing that there's going to be like another 2 or 3 on top to have, you know? And it's no surprise to me why, when it really matters in the game where we should have really beaten Aston Villa, I thought that they were there for the taking and they weren't even levels. Let's keep it real.
We should have been clear first half, bro.
It should have been clear first half. I think that Jackson chance was the big one where he should have gone round the keeper and hit it with his left foot. But that's what I mean. There's no confidence. If that was pre-season Jackson, who was just coming in, that he literally, I think he scored a goal like that from like even taking it round the keeper before scoring. But he's not looking as confident anymore now. I might be.
I'm trying to think as well. I think so. I kind of vaguely remember something like that. I think
that Newcastle goal was the run. Mate, I mean, listen, you guys, if you're listening, don't even quote me to that. I could be absolutely capping right now.
But do you guys know I smoke too much? For sure.
But it's just like, I just feel, bro, like you're gonna undermine these youngsters because they're gonna lack that confidence in front of goal when it really matters, because you haven't let them have that license to take the risks, to create more opportunities. Because why? Bro, you're prioritizing not conceding more than flipping scoring. You're playing Colwell, who was playing as a centre back in flipping pre-season. He's playing this left. It's just like, bro, how's that even benefiting anyone? Who's finding the left winger? You know, the left side over the past 3 games has got worse and worse and worse.
It's disgraceful,
it's a common sense thing now.
There's no overlaps, and I can't blame Colwell. There's no underlaps. I can't blame Colwell for this.
No
doesn't look comfortable going past the halfway line. I can't blame him for this. Why? He's not a centre. He's not a left back. He's a centre back. Doesn't have the attributes to be playing left back. And in fact, in my honest opinion, you're wasting his best attributes by playing him out on that side anyway. As a left back, you don't do that. And then I get told by people, well, Poch wants to invert him so we can make the most of these passes from the central areas. We don't see that. We don't see it. So why are we still persisting with this? It doesn't make no sense. And remember this. Go on.
My thing is, I don't even necessarily agree that I did like the whole thing in principle. I thought against Liverpool when he played that same way. Look, listen, Colwell's a Gavadio Aki type of guy. He can play left and right. He can do that, but it's just like pick and choose your battles. I don't see the utility against playing that way against teams that want you to play the ball wides. That teams that are going to sit back, defend deep, you know, protect their lines and let you play in front of them. I don't see tactically, I don't see from like a competitive point of view why it makes sense to have all these build-up guys doing nothing when we're lacking the support in the final third. And don't be telling me Khans and flipping and Nkunku is enough of a reason for things to collapse. I don't think that's good enough. Or even against Aston Villa, you could have even had Gallagher. You're sitting deep alongside Caicedo. I want you to push further up into midfield, you know? I want you to be closer to the attack. I think that's where he's supposed to play. That's what I mean. But that's the coaching thing. That's the coaching thing. It's just like they're the details that's going against us. And you know, I hate seeing this thing, bro, where you start with caution and then when you're behind, all caution goes out the flipping door, and now you don't care how we try and get back in. We've seen it for years, and it's just like, come on, this is why maybe I get a bit cocky. I'm like, bro, football is not like rocket science or brain surgery. The level of intellect you need to understand what's going on is so vast that you just will never even get it. It's football, bro. It's not that. I respect the details and everything that goes behind, but come on, it's still football.
It's a simple game, and it's supposed to be. And you'd be surprised the amount of even pro players that I've spoken to that will tell you straight when I ask them, you know, I say, what advice would you give kids that are coming up? They'll say straight. Football's listen to your coach, turn up to training, do as you're told, and remember football's a simple game and enjoy yourself. Do you know what I mean? It's not rocket science. But then, you know, even with that, with media, how they're marketing certain things and how they're pushing certain angles and stuff like that, a lot of people will think it's a lot harder than it actually is. So I think there's a variety of factors as to why football
For sure.
is looked at this way. But no, I've got to agree, man. Some of these tactical decisions, you can't look at that. You can't look at the
Because
ownership
it's
for
bro,
what
it's
the
like game
managers do.
management. Like I understand, yeah, coaching, you do the theoretical stuff, you set the team up, get them ready to play, to prepare for the next game. I fully get that. But then there's also other
Yeah,
facets and details. So like, okay, the game's not going how you thought. How are we getting back in the game? And you don't always see the manager able to like control the course of a game's destiny, right? To get you back by making the right tweaks and changes. I think every time Poch has made a decision so far, I think we've actually got a bit worse as the second half's gone on. I think the prime example was against Nottingham Forest, where if you threw all caution out the window, it was like this
the subs
three
were ludicrous.
what 3-1-3-3 thing he was using, and there was everyone looked kind of lost on the field. I'm just thinking, you know what I mean? Like, please, all this experience you have, what's the reluctance in thinking, okay, you know, I'm going to have a Ben play alongside Mudryk, because if Mudryk's cutting inside, I know your overlaps, which are one of the, I think he's one of the top. He's one of these very intelligent with his movement in behind Ben. It
Yeah, that
just
was one of
feels
his
like
strong
it's meant,
points.
yeah, it just feels like it's meant to have that alongside a winger like a Mudryk that can cut in and wants to play close and do give and goes with Jackson. It's just like you're undermining the attacking connections, and you know, I don't know.
Nah,
It's
it's and
frustrating me. It's
you know,
frustrating me.
even to add on to that, Niinii is Pochettino. If you look at his past and his reputation, well, I'm going to start from Southampton because I didn't really watch him as much when he was in Spain, but Southampton onwards, a massive, huge part of Pochettino's game and why he did so well was the fullbacks. Look at the fullbacks that he's worked with throughout his career. You know, Luke Shaw before he went to Manchester United. Anybody would be lying if they never thought this guy was going straight to the top and wasn't going to become one of the best left backs in the country. 100%. I thought that one. Other names I can think of, you know, what's it? Danny Rose, Kyle Walker. Do you know what I mean? Danny Rose to a lesser extent, but he had this stint under Poch where he looked
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Kyle Walker is more of an example. Now he's gone on to Manchester
yeah,
City, and now he's doing this at Chelsea. I don't get it. And another thing that I want to touch on before we move on to, you know, the controversial question that people are
yeah,
asking themselves, that will close the stream. But Mudryk, I felt the last game that he had, considering all the criticism and everything that he's been through, I thought the last game that he had, two things. He was number one, he was very unlucky not to get 2 assists. And number two, I thought that was one of the best games I've seen him in a Chelsea shirt. But you hit the nail on the head. Having Colwell at left back is going to shackle this guy. It's going to handicap him because you need options. You need somebody who knows when to overlap, who's also quick enough to overlap, who knows when to underlap as well. Do you know what I mean? These are things that need to that are needed. So we're not going to get the best out of Mudryk until we sort out that side.
and that's what I'm saying, bro. Like, my thing is, I don't even know if Pochettino now, because again, when it's been consecutive games, I know Cole's a great player. It doesn't even really feel like maybe Poch wants him to be being that constant overlapping option. Like, Poch wants him to be that guy where if we have to like make it three at the back to play out, Cole was going to be that auxiliary defender slash left back. You know what I mean? So it
Yep.
seems like he has a zone he's allowed to play in, and he's not supposed to get forward as much. But I just feel like, again, if I'm playing against a big team where you're playing for moments, that makes more sense to me, and I can accept that. And I think against Liverpool, the compilation shows Cole played a very good game against them, playing in that position.
Yeah.
But my thing is, and I keep stressing it, if you're most of the teams you're playing against aren't Liverpool, yeah. So you don't have to give too much respect to playing this type of way when there's no utility. And I just feel like it's funny that when we had traditional left backs, we got three in the damn squad, yeah. And I hate the fact that I keep seeing this thing at my football club, but we have an abundance of guys in one position and we'll never use them. It's been like that since Tuchel. It's been like that since everyone. And it's just like we're the only club that undermines our own investments. And it baffles me. It honestly baffles me. I just think that I'm praying the next game, tomorrow, we're going to see a bit of caution throughout the window a little bit, because you're going to realize, oh shit, you know, maybe it does make sense to me now. So you actually use one of the left backs who
Yeah.
aren't bad players, you know? Like, I just feel like we're at that point now, bro. But as you were saying about Mudryk, I mean, yeah, I think Mudryk, I feel like, okay, here's my thing, yeah. I feel like the idea of him is getting people. Maybe I'm saying it wrong, but like I feel like people are gassing up a bit more by the idea of Mudryk, because I'm gonna
Yeah,
try and also keep things a bit relative in the sense that
yeah,
listen, he
yeah.
has been promising and I like that. But for me, that type of promise, I'm hoping I'm gonna see more consistency of that, where it's not just one or three nice moments in game. I think that's nice. It tells
Hmm.
you it's reassurance that okay, he's not a bad player, he's not a liability, he's not crap. There's something here. But I don't want to gas at the same time and start saying like he's fantastic or amazing. He's showing what he should be, and I think there's a lot more to come. And I think it is exciting about what he could do.
No facts. I agree with him. I think he's been written off a bit too early. As has a
Way
lot of,
early.
yeah, as of a lot of our players. You know what I mean? And time hopefully will prove it wrong. But when I come into like the last segment of this stream, it's been a great conversation I've had with yourself, Niinii. I actually want to give you an early thank you for joining us again. I've enjoyed it that
All
much. Do
good,
you know what I
bro.
mean? But the last question, obviously, you know, it is going around the fan base. To me, it's a bit of a nonsensical one. Although I succumbed to the pressure, I drank that big jug of Kool-Aid, the Pochettino out thing when I was upset. Yeah, heat of the moment thing, people. I do apologize. But I'm going to structure this question to make it perhaps a little bit more challenging for you. If things do not change on the pitch, and some of these blatant mistakes that we're both seeing, with the run of games that we've got coming up, if results do not change, do you see this guy having a job by Christmas?
I mean, that's a very, very tough one. I mean, I'm praying that's not going to be the case, man, because
Same.
if that reality comes to fruition, I don't know what the future is really going to hold realistically. Are they going to try and send out desperation money to Brian for the Zerbi? Yeah, good luck with that. I wouldn't know, to be fair with you. And to be fair, bro, I'm not even trying to think about realities like that. I think that
Yeah,
if Poch does struggle, and if he's like another manager that's had difficulties, it does kind of communicate that maybe it's not exclusively just the manager's issue for why we keep finding ourselves in this situation. Listen, there's details that I've been saying, but at the same time, I'll also accept, listen, what if like, you know, it didn't work, whatever, cool, I get that. I just think though that if you maybe help the team a bit, at least you can kind of create your own fortune in games sometimes. Who knows if it's even a flipping half chance goal that goes in because someone's a bit closer to Jackson or something, or you know, or because Enzo is deep and not playing as a 10 for the third or fourth game, he might have the ability to unlock a pass that he won't do because he's playing closer to a striker. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I understand that, but as to keep it real, bro, I'm really not trying to think about another manager being sacked. If one gets sacked, I just think our credibility really goes down the
It
drain. And
goes,
we're a
yeah.
poison chalice that no one will touch in, to be fair.
And then you've got to think of, you know, future prospects that you want coming to the club. And you know what? Even before then, the current crop of players that we have, because some of our star boys are not going to stand for this. Remember, and then come the end of this summer, Enzo would have been at Chelsea for a year. He would have been here long enough, well, longer than he was at Benfica.
Yeah.
And if things don't fix up, you never know. Real Madrid are already sniffing around Reece James. You get me? Like, other clubs are not stupid. They know that Chelsea have got talented players, but it's just in disarray at the minute. Do you know what I mean? So we do have to be careful from so many angles, man. And honestly, even and people I know, but you said you wanted Poch out. Once again, I'm gonna say this. It was the heat of the moment. I'm man enough to say I made a mistake. And I'm gonna explain. Well, you guys have probably already seen the live already, where myself and Eunice have explained and gone through the video. If you haven't, make sure you do check it out. It was something that we did earlier than this. But it would be crazy to sack Pochettino. And I have to agree with Niinii. It's like if he walks now, the fourth manager in less than 365 days, how's the fifth one who we're targeting gonna think? Well, actually, these previous four managers, look how they were treated at Chelsea Football Club. And one of them is a Champions League winner, Club World Cup winner, Super Cup winner, and so on and so forth. Do you know what I mean? So we definitely have to tread on eggshells here. And I think we might have to accept, and it's obviously begrudgingly, we might have to accept that we are in a reality where Arsenal once were. And what I mean by that is parallel this to the 2 8th place finishes that you saw with Mikel Arteta. This is the reality that we're going to be in at the minute, because as of now, I'll be real with you, Niinii, I don't see us qualifying for Champions League. I don't see us qualifying for Europa League. And Conference League might be a myth as well if this form continues. So what are we left with? Are we going to sack the manager, hit the reset button again, start from zero again, back in the transfer market again, decide which players are wanted, decide which players are not wanted, deal with all the issues that come with that, the instability in the dressing room? I don't want that. Let's power through this and give it time. That's all we've got at this moment in time. Now, I don't know if that sounded quite defeatist to you, Niinii, or if
Nah,
there was
definitely not.
any.
I think it's realistic, bro. I think again, I think we've all thrown around sack for years as fans of this football club that it's starting to feel a bit redundant and hollow right now, to be fair with you. And you know, the other advantage all those clubs above us have is that at least they persisted with the football idea. Now, if we had an idea last season, I think we'd be in a better spot this season. You could recontextualize the moments, right, and be like, you know, Pochettino now is, you know, he has his fresh opportunity and chance now to try and create a style that we're trying to see. And who knows, maybe this is what you accept for the first month or two, and hopefully things get better. We're seeing signs in terms of the stats and numbers that it's not all too bad. And I think for expected points as a team, I think we should be fifth, between 6th to 4th right now, which isn't too bad. So again, there's big moments now. We got these next few games against flipping obviously Brighton tomorrow, then Fulham, 2 teams that we got good results against during pre-season. And then after that, we got Burnley. You know, you're thinking to yourself, these are 3 games you want to win. I think this team for confidence needs to win the Carabao Cup. I think we should take that very seriously. And I think obviously Arsenal, London derby, that's always going to be something. You know, Chelsea, Brentford, Spurs. If we can find a run of form these next 3 games, we have the quality. I mean, let's not forget against Liverpool, we dominated possession against them. I feel like we created good chances. And it's not like these players that we have are incapable and they aren't good enough to compete against big teams. Yeah. So I really hope Poch uses this next 3 games to at least try and, you know, embrace the attack a little bit more. Let the players form a few more connections. Let them have the opportunity to take more shots and chances on goal. You know what I mean? I feel like that's what I want to see in these next 3 games. And then obviously we take it from there then.
100%. I agree with you, man. That's well summarized. But I've said this 100 times, people, but I promise this is it now. There's one more thing that I want to discuss.
Yeah.
It's still to do with the football. As you can see here on the screen, a tweet from Chelsea Dodgers. Mauricio Pochettino on Badad Egbali going to the dressing room. I don't see it in a bad way. For me, it is good that they share with us. It would be different if they gave some speech, but they own the club and they can do what they want. I am glad they came and shared with us. We didn't win on Sunday, and it is important to share also when we are suffering. A lot of sharing being mentioned there. But look, this has received a mixed response in the fan base. Personally, I'm not really with the owners going into the dressing room. I come from the era where the dressing room was a bit of a sacred place for football players and managers, and just not anybody can just walk in there. But then I don't know, some people might tell me, well, Guni, get with the times, you know what I mean? But I just come from that. And personally, I don't want to be seeing these things personally, but again, this is from the era that I'm from. So I'm obviously reading this out, obviously to ask you guys, the people that have been watching the video, to leave your thoughts on that in the comments as well. But then obviously to ask you, Niinii, is this something that particularly bothers you, or is it something that is taken out of proportion yet again, you reckon?
I mean, in moments like this, I'm not here to be telling people if you're taking it in the wrong way or not. To be fair with you, no, on a real one, I don't know. I think to myself, is this a normal thing? And is it just at this football club, our owners can't even take a shit without that being front page news, because everything's always baited out with everything that we do at this football club? I don't know. At the same time, too, owners coming in when we're not winning, like again, what's the utility behind that as well? Like, is that not just for like a separate meeting you have at the end of the month or something like that? Is that not like a better time to talk?
Yeah.
I mean, this is what I mean. There's all these different reasonings and things, right? So again, I'm not here to tell no one if you're overblowing it or doing whatever. I think what your opinion is on the matter is valid, to be fair.
Yeah, there's no, I suppose that's fair. There's no right or wrong answer, really, is there? Do you know what I mean? Opinion is opinion at the end of the day. But thank you, man. Niinii, thank you so much for joining me on the channel. I thought this was a very productive and a very good conversation. You know, I like to have a sensible discussion of football, not always shouting, ranting, and being upset. Obviously, Niinii is one of the go-to guys for it. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes you say some stuff, Niinii, I ain't gonna lie, where I feel like, like maybe I am taking things a bit too far and I need to calm down. Do you know what I mean? That's why I like to watch you. Everybody has to be humbled once every while. And I do get that from you sometimes. Do you know what I mean? I'm not afraid to admit. So, but big up yourself, man. Thank you for jumping on the show. Most importantly, what have you got that's already on your channel that you'd like people to see? And what have you got coming up later?
Well, obviously, I want to say shout out to my new editor that's working with me. Trying to freshen up the channel a little bit with the content, trying to bring in more like discussion and investigative pieces. And shout out to Harrison for obviously like coming on board and bringing some levels and quality to the channel, and just looking to just like push on and grow and do more this season, other than just like news and reviews and stuff like that. I think it's time for a little bit of a refresh, to be fair. 100%. So if you guys want to, obviously, I'm not just giving like level-headed takes all the time. Sometimes I have my moments with fans. It's normal. But if you guys want something where, you want to have a discussion, you want to like, formulate your thoughts, you want to hear something that's not too reactionary 24/7, you know, as to find me on Blue Lines TV.
Absolutely. I can vouch for that. Very, very good football takes as well, man. And definitely somebody you can learn a lot about football from. I have, like I said, I have as well been a big fan of the channel for many years now. But people, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Yeah, if you're new to the platform, give the video a thumbs up. Leave your thoughts down there in the comments. Also, like I said before, all of Niinii's socials are down there in the description, all clickable links. Yeah, don't be lazy, click them, follow my guy, support my guy, all of that good stuff, you get me? But until next time, people, Gareth Southgate out, we're out. Bless up.